I want to try something a little bit different. We're going to bring in two of our own experts here at the Family Research Council to discuss some of the topics that came up yesterday on the Sunday shows. Joining me now for this expert panel discussion is Travis Weber, Vice President for Policy and Government Affairs here at the Family Research Council, and Suzanne Bowdey, Editorial Director and Senior Writer at the Washington Stand. Travis and Suzanne, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
All right, so we're going to take a look at some of these clips, and I'm going to get your response to them because a lot of issues discussed over the weekend, and I think it's important that we dissect some of these statements and analyze them on both sides because there's a lot of political spin put on the issue. So let's first take a look at CNN's State of the Union program from Sunday. Democrat Senator Mark Warner suggested a plan for standing up to Iran. Let's play that clip.
The best thing we could do to stand up against Iran would be for Israel to end the conflict in Gaza, get the hostages back, because, starting to rebuild and giving the Palestinians some hope for life would allow Saudi Arabia and other nations in the region to frankly recognize Israel and then put an even more united front against Iran.
Travis, that sounds like more of the same. You were with me in Israel last week. We spoke to members of the IDF. We were at Memorial Day services. How would pacifying Hamas, walking away from Gaza, affect Iran in terms of its hostility toward Israel?
Yeah, Tony, when I hear that clip, my question for him is how exactly is he proposing we stand up against Iran? By appeasing and rolling over and giving Hamas, who is aligned with Iran in its ultimate goal of eliminating the Jewish people in the state of Israel. So what the senator is saying there is let's sort of ease up the gas on Hamas here so that we can direct our attention to Iran. It's kind of like saying I'm fighting one army, but let's just ignore this one part over here so we can just all turn our attention to the other part as if Hamas is going to join in that effort. Hamas is not interested in helping Israel against Iran. They're aligned with Iran against Israel. So we need some clarity on the reality of what's happening in the region, of the alignments in the region. And I would say provide a different prescription, Tony. I think a better prescription is to first step back and ascertain the proper perspective of the region, get clarity on what's actually happening, which is Hamas, Iran, Turkey, and others in the region are all aligned in their anti-Israel, anti-Jewish animus, then proceed to describe the prescription for how to help Israel best stand in the midst of a hostile sea of neighbors.
Suzanne, I want to go to you on that issue of the Middle East. The Middle East understands power. I think we saw very clearly during the 4 years of the Biden administration what appeasement gets us. It gets us a world on fire. That seems to be what Senator Warner is proposing.
Absolutely. And I have to believe that Iran and the Houthis, Gaza, Hamas are all very concerned about a Trump administration that's not going to sit back and just take these bombings, just take this hostage situation. They're going to take it very seriously. And so in this instance, I think Warner's very misled on what he's proposing here, as Travis says.
Let's change channels. Let's go to CBS's Face the Nation. Senator Tammy Duckworth was laser focused on the Trump administration's nominee for UN Ambassador Mike Waltz. Play the clip of Duckworth. Senator Duckworth, please.
He's not qualified for the job just by nature of the fact that he participated in this signal chain. In fact, I think everybody on that signal chain needs to be fired because not a single one of them spoke up and said, hey, this is inappropriate. We should be in a secure channel.
All right, I'll throw this out to you first, Suzanne, because you've been writing on this. I think Mike Waltz, who is a friend, who I think is actually one of the best equipped in the White House to handle the issues in the Middle East. I think he was maybe too aggressive for some, and I think there was a lot of backbiting, what I hear in the White House. I think appointing him or nominating him for ambassador to the UN, given the issues surrounding his departure, is going to make confirmation very difficult. Am I right?
I think you are right. I think the Democrats are salivating at this opportunity to take down a member of the Trump team who, in my estimation, we don't know all the details about Signalgate, but Mike Waltz is so qualified for any position he holds that deals with national security. He has 4 Bronze Stars. He's served in the Special Forces. He's been on the House Armed Services Committee. He's worked in the Bush administration. So this is a very convenient controversy for the left. I think that they're just looking for a way to describe the administration as sloppy or amateur or just unprepared for the tasks at hand. And this is a great opportunity for them to shift the messaging, discredit the Trump administration. But Mike Waltz, as a person in the administration, has been solid, and he will continue to be solid if he is able to be confirmed, which will be a tall order for him in the Senate as it's constructed now.
Travis, what do we know about the internal jockeying, so to speak? We have those who are, isolationist, that are a part of this kind of new conservative wing of the party. Mike Waltz not fitting into that category. I wouldn't call him a hawk necessarily. Is one that's been on this program many, many times because he is well versed in foreign policy and military issues, security issues. But is this a sign, a troubling sign of things to come, of the power and influence of the isolationist wing that has the ear of the president?
Tony, I do think we need to ask, where this is coming from. And as you're noting, those who do not like Mike Waltz's views on how to conduct our foreign policy regionally and otherwise, they would be looking for an opportunity like this, right? And as Suzanne said, convenient. It's very convenient for the Democrats. So my, appeal to the administration would be, what does this set you up for? Do not think it's a good situation right now because they're, kind of, so to speak, putting out to the Democrats for them to try to take down Waltz here. And meanwhile, what are they left with in terms of advice to conduct foreign policy? You need a multitude of counselors. You need counselors who are prepared to face our enemies, take them on, as Trump did when he ordered the strike against the Iranian general during the first administration, right? And that was an appropriate response to aggression. That is the language that we're speaking with some of these adversaries. And so in light of all that, looking at what's happening, Tony, as you say, the jockeying, the current state of jockeying is not really good to set the president up to lead with force in a hostile world. When you need clarity on what's happening, you need moral clarity and the ability to speak that consistently to your adversaries in a way that they can understand. So, Tony, as you said, we need advisors around the president. We as Americans should want advisors around the president that he can trust and hear from, knowing he cannot personally keep up with every situation that's happening globally. That's why you need experts. And so Mike Waltz is certainly one of those on the Middle East, on our military activities globally. And so from that perspective, we should ask, well, who's going to fill that gap now? Where are we going to get that advice in the foreign policy apparatus for the president and what he needs to do globally?
And if I could just step in there, one of the names that's been floated today is Stephen Miller, who is currently serving as the White House Chief of Domestic Policy. So what you're really seeing in the Trump administration is a shrinking of the circle of trust. So you have fewer voices speaking into the president, some of whom I don't know what Stephen Miller's background is that equips him to be national security advisor. But it really is a troubling sign for the administration, I think, to just so closely shrink who has access to the president on these important issues.
And Suzanne, you're talking about someone who's been focused on the border a lot. The border is a national security issue, but there are other national security issues. Tony, part of what we've seen at our border is people flooding in from not just Mexico and South America, but around the world. So we need to be ascertaining this with a global perspective. And you need to understand what's happening globally, not just in the immigration system or other select matters closer to home.
And I would say it's a little disingenuous, too, for the Trump administration to say this is a promotion, when in fact we don't know what's going on behind closed doors, and it could very well be something else entirely.
Well, you don't remove somebody from a position to promote them to another one. They would stay in that position until confirmed for the other one. All right, let me move on. Fox News. We saw Fox News Sunday. We actually saw DNC Chair Ken Martin venture across the aisle talking about Medicaid cuts. Play the clip of Martin, please.
Donald Trump made a lot of promises to Americans last year, and this budget that he's bringing forward is actually going to increase prices for most hardworking Americans. That's where we're focused on right now. This budget he's bringing forward, which is going to cut Medicaid, all to give a tax break to the richest people in this country and corporations, and not helping hardworking Americans again.
All right, here we go again. Same line that Republicans are going to be cutting Medicaid. No discussion about the fact that the Biden administration expanded it by about 50% to able-bodied men that could easily work and have their own health care coverage. This, what the Republicans are looking at, waste, fraud, and abuse to salvage and save the program.
Right, and I think one of the things that should debunk that claim right off the bat are the lawsuits taking place in swing states where Democrats have tried to put up billboards saying, you know, the Republicans are going to cut grandma's health care. They're going to eliminate Medicaid. There aren't going to be any entitlement programs. You won't have benefits. And in fact, when Republicans even threatened the Democrats with defamation lawsuits, they backed off. They are clearly lying. They have no answer for the Trump agenda or for the Republicans who want to cut waste, fraud, and abuse. We've seen illegal immigrants on the rolls for Medicaid. We've seen, as you said, able-bodied people. You were talking with Dr. Marshall earlier. There are some estimates that in blue states, as many as 40% of households are on Medicaid, which is astronomical. We cannot continue to fund something or it will be extinct. We just can't afford this anymore.
Okay, I want to move one more weekend interview with NPR's president and CEO, Catherine Moore. She joined Paula Kerger for this conversation. Let's play the clip of Catherine Moore.
Our people report straight down the line, and I think that not only do they do that, they do so with a mission that very few other broadcast organizations have, which is a requirement to serve the entire public. That is the point of public broadcasting, is we bring people together in those conversations.
Straight down the line? What line is that?
Well, you don't have to take it from us that NPR is biased. You can take it from NPR's own staff. Since Yuri Berliner, a whistleblower, published a very lengthy expose in the Free Press last year talking about how absolutely convoluted and biased their agenda was, not just in reporting since COVID, but just in the last several years. They only serve a niche audience, and yet they're getting millions and millions of taxpayer dollars. So it's a wild suggestion that they are right down the middle.
President Trump, though, taking action to eliminate the funding for public broadcasting.
Right, and I think that they should be very concerned because this is something he can do through the rescission process, which only requires a simple majority in the Senate. So she has a good reason to be concerned because Trump and the Senate Republicans will take action on this, and very likely the Corporation for Public Broadcasting will take a huge hit.
What happens? I mean, how much of their funding comes from government sources? I mean, will they be able to survive?
They could if they had, I assume, private influx of dollars, but good luck getting enough to fund it when you're only serving 11% of the American population, which is roughly the niche that they're getting right now in terms of listenership.
We saw this with Planned Parenthood when the federal government began to withdraw funds for them. They raised the money. They had plenty of money, $1 billion operation. I mean, look, if NPR provides a service to those 11%, they happen to be, the liberal left, the wealthy, hey, let them fund it. But I think it makes our government more fiscally responsible. I personally don't think that they'll find the funding they need to continue operating as they do.
And that wouldn't be a tragedy. I don't think we ever need for the government to provide us with entertainment or news. It comes across as state-funded propaganda. So leave that to the people who are reporting for a living, who can be unbiased, and take the taxpayers out of it.
But what about Big Bird? We might miss Big Bird, right? All right, Suzanne Bowdey, Travis Weber, thanks so much for joining us. I got to go catch those reruns of Sesame Street.